Well, students, so far we have read that Dr. Heidegger has invited four of his friends to his laboratory to have their assistance in one of his experiment, one of his project which he is going through. And in our next lecture, we have read that how Dr. Heidegger's laboratory looks, and we have also been introduced to that folio which has no name on it and which is supposed to be the book of magic. Now, such was Dr. Heidegger's study. On the summer afternoon of our tale, a small round table as black as ebony stood in the center of the room, sustaining a cut glass vase of beautiful form and elaborate workmanship. The sunshine came through the window between the heavy festoons of two faded damask curtains and fell directly across the vase, so that a mild splendor was reflected from it on the ashen visages of the five old people who sat around. Four champagne glasses were also on the table. So now the writer says, as we have seen, as we have read in our previous lecture, that how was Dr. Heidegger's study room, or we can say his laboratory, was looking like on the summer afternoon of our tale, the tale which we are narrating here, which we are studying here. So on the on a summer afternoon of our tale, this is what is happening, that there was a small round table at the center of the library, this laboratory, this study room, and which was as black as ebony. It was not made of ebony, abnus की बनी हुई नहीं थी, but it was as black as appears to be ebony, stood in the center of the room, sustaining a cut glass vase of beautiful form and elaborate workmanship. And there was a vase, a pot, which was being put on this table, and this vase, दिस ये जो जार था, ये जो बर्तन था, जो कांच का जो जार वहाँ रखा हुआ था, it was very beautiful in form and elaborate workmanship was being done on it. Means beautiful drawing and painting was also being done on that vase. The sunshine came through the window, and the sunshine was coming through the window, means sun rays were coming through the windows and through the heavy festoons of two faded damask curtains, those curtains which were though faded now, but they were being brought from Damask, Turkey, and through them those sun rays were coming, and they were being reflected from it upon the, through that curtain upon the vase, and then after that reflection it was being visible, or it was being reflected on the ashen faces of those five old people. Four champagne glasses were also on the table, and there were also four glasses of champagne. champagne पीने के लिए चार ग्लास जो थे वो भी वहाँ टेबल पे रखे हुए थे. My dear old friends, repeated Dr. Heidegger, may I reckon on your aid in performing an exceedingly curious experiment. So again he repeated this thing, that my dear friends, do I have your help, do I have your assistance in completing a very important, a very curious, a very knowledgeable experiment of mine. Now Dr. Heidegger was a very strange old gentleman whose eccentricity had become the nucleus for 1,000 fantastic stories. Some of these fables to my shame, be it spoken, might possibly be traced back to my own veracious self, and if any passages of the present tale should startle the reader's faith, I must be content to bear the stigma of a fiction monger. Now, just to took the credit or to make this story look a bit subjective, the writer says that now Dr. Heidegger was a very strange old gentleman, and whose eccentricity means whose eccentric behaviors, whose far off behaviors have become the nucleus of 1,000 stories, means many stories about scandalous behavior of Dr. Heidegger were spread through the people, and some of these fables, to my shame be it spoken, the writer said that I'm not giving away my responsibility. I am accepting is that it is a shameful act on my deed, that I am the person who has circulated these stories. Some of these stories were circulated by me also. So we can assume it in both ways, that perhaps Dr. Heidegger was not an eccentric person. It was just a rumor being spread by people like the author, or perhaps he might be, but some amount of truth and some amount of fiction was there. And if any passage of the present tale should startle the reader's faith, and he says again that even in this present tale which we are reading right at the moment, if here also the readers get startled, then I took the credit, because this is me who has just wrote this for you, because I am the storyteller, I am the fiction monger, so I will obviously bear the wrath, bear the stigma of your discontentment. When the doctor's four guests heard him talk of his proposed experiment, they anticipated nothing more wonderful than the murder of a mouse in an air pump, or the examination of a cobweb by the microscope, or some similar nonsense with which he was constantly in the habit of pestering his intimates. So the four guests of Dr. Heidegger also, as the writer has been telling that there has been 100 and thousands of stories about Dr. Heidegger's behavior. So in the same manner, these four gentlemen also, when he asked them about their help in an experiment, so they were also certain that the kind of experiment it might be like the death of some mouse in air pump, or the examination of cobweb through microscope, or something like that, because it is the habit of Dr. Heidegger to trouble his friends with such experiments, such foolish demonstrations. But without waiting for a reply, Dr. Heidegger hobbled across the chamber and returned with the same ponderous folio bound in black leather, which common report affirmed to a book of magic. But this time, Dr. Heidegger has not waited for the reply from his guests, from his friends, and he just hobbled, just walked across the room, and he just took that portfolio along with him, which is introduced to us as the book of magic, and he brought it to the table. Undoing the silver clasps, he opened the volume and took from among its black letter pages a rose, or what was once a rose. And then, opening the silver clasps of that folio, he just turned the pages, and he had found a rose, or what we can say, which was a rose once. जो कभी rose था, an old rose he has found there. Though now the green leaves and crimson petals had assumed one brownish hue, and the ancient flower seemed ready to crumble to dust to the doctor's hands. Though now it doesn't appear like a rose because it has lost its colors. It has become brownish now for being put there for a lot of time in that folio, and it appeared that it might crumble there in the hands of doctor himself. This rose, said Dr. Heidegger with a sigh, this same withered and crumbling flower blossomed 550 years ago. It was given me by Sylvia Ward, whose portrait hangs yonder, and I mean to wear it in my bosom at our wedding. Now Dr. Heidegger gives the introduction of that flower, that why he had chosen that specific flower, what is special about that rose. He says that this rose is 55 years old, and this is given to me by my fiancée, Sylvia Ward, and I was supposed to wear this rose at my bosom in my wedding ceremony. 550 years it has been treasured between the leaves of this old volume, and since then 55 years it has been treasured, it has been kept here in this volume. Now, would you deem it possible that this rose of half a century could ever bloom again? Now he asks the real question, that now, can you believe? Do you believe? Can you have ever thought this thing? Do you have ever this idea in your mind that this 55-year-old rose can bloom again? Nonsense, said the widow wisely with a peevish toss of her head. You might as well ask whether an old woman's wrinkled face could ever bloom again. Now, the widow wisely, she just in a very angry tone, she said that nonsense. If you think that this rose can bloom again, then you can also think that the wrinkled face of a old lady can also bloom again. That is nonsense. That cannot happen. She answered Dr. Heidegger. But Dr. Heidegger ने आंसर दिया क्या? See, देखो. He uncovered the vase and threw the faded rose into the water which it contained. Then what Dr. Heidegger do? That he just uncovered, opened the lid of the vase, and he threw that rose into that water of the vase. At first, it lay lightly on the surface of the fluid. And in the beginning, the flower just lay there, motionless, on the surface of the water, appeared to imbibe none of its moistures, and it appeared that it is not even getting the moisture from the water. But soon, however, a singular change began to be visible. But soon there was a change. There seemed to be a change coming to the flower. The crust and the dried petals stirred and assumed a deepening tinge of crimson, as if the flower were reviving from a death-like slumber. But soon the leaves, the petals of the flower, they started getting their crimson hue, as if the flower is rebirthing again, is regaining its life again from the death. The slender stalk and twigs of the foliage became green, and there was the rose of half a century, looking as fresh as when Sylvia Ward had first given it to her lover. And soon the flower was there in its full bloom, and it appeared as fresh, as new as it was when it was given by Sylvia Ward to Dr. Heidegger for the first time. It was scarcely full blown, for some of its delicate red leaves curled modestly around its moist bosom, within which 2 or 3 dewdrops were sparkling. Though he says, we can say that it was scarcely full blown, though it was not full blown because it has been cursed for a long time, 55 years under the burden of those folio pages, so it could not straighten those leaves. Some of its petals have still curled modestly around its moist bosom, and within which 2 or 3 dewdrops were sparkling. The drops of that water, that liquid, are still sparkling through that. So this is what we have got the hint that what Dr. Heidegger wants to show them. He has produced a flower which is 55 years old, and he asked them that can it revive again, and in a unanimous voice all of them have rejected this idea that such an old flower cannot bloom again. But Dr. Heidegger, after putting that rose into the water, had produced it to be just fresh, blooming to its full in a very color, in the very green leaves and those crimson petals. Means everything seems quite young, quite fresh. So this is it for the day. Thank you.